So today we're going to have a little bit of fun because I want to share with you my reaction to a video of someone that posted, "Want to be rich? Don't start a business." Well, this guy, Mark Tilbury, which I don't know him personally, but I do like his content, by the way. So I just want to go on the record here to say that I'm not saying I agree or disagree with this video yet. Now, I want to give my perspective here as someone that has worked for someone and has started several businesses and have generated multiple millions of dollars online now since I started. So I'm going to give you my perspective because if he's saying don't start a business, I got to hear what this is all about. So let's go ahead and hear what Mark has to say.
As soon as I left school, I started my first business, which made me a multimillionaire and gave me the life I'd always dreamed of.
All right, so whoa, time out for a minute, because the title of the video is "Want to be rich? Don't start a business." But then Mark is saying that he started a business right out of school and that's how he became rich. So, let's keep watching.
This statement isn't just false, it's pretty much impossible. The trouble is,
oh, okay, I see what he did there. That was smart. That was clever. You had me thinking there for a minute that maybe I was watching a video that you really weren't going to deliver on that promise, but I guess you are going to stick to don't start a business.
many people that want to get rich are buying into this narrative as it's so widespread on the internet. Why? Because it sounds so much easier than the reality. If you want to get rich but don't want to put in the hard work, then I'd recommend buying a lottery ticket and crossing your fingers, as it'll probably be more effective. Don't get me wrong, I did make my millions from starting successful businesses. However, I didn't just jump straight into a business idea after watching a top 10 side hustle video.
I like this Mark. He's got a good sense of humor. Lottery ticket, maybe a top 10 side hustle that you pick up by watching some YouTube videos, but I do think a side hustle could lead you to a full-time business. So let's see if he agrees.
So when I say you have little to no chance of starting a successful business straight out of school, I'm not trying to crush your dreams. Quite the opposite. I want you to save your valuable time and start building the skill sets you need to succeed. So if you want to become rich, then listen up, because if I was in your position, I'd follow these 6 steps. Step 1, find your natural talents. I hate the saying, follow your passion. What if your passion doesn't have the ability to make you money, or even worse, you just don't have one?
All right, so I do have to chime in here because I do believe that your passion, if you have one, that it can help you and it can get you through the times that you're not really successful because you're still interested in that thing. And yes, I do agree. You want to validate that your passion can actually make money. Totally agree with that. But I do think that if you have a passion that does support a business, you will do better because you're more interested in it. That's my take.
It feels like one of those overused self-help sayings that doesn't actually have any real substance around it. Maybe people are drawn to advice like this, as the general population seem obsessed with the idea of living a good, balanced and happy life. This, of course, is an admirable goal. However, a starving artist struggles to make money, and they rarely have any of these things. My passion was to become an RAF fighter pilot, but as soon as I found out I needed glasses, that dream went out the window. I could have continued down that path and wasted valuable time. However, I decided to park that passion for later in life when I had enough money to complete my pilot's license and fly planes for fun.
Okay, so I guess a little bit more backstory here from Mark would be good. So he didn't actually become a fighter pilot, but he's still into planes. And I wonder if he did anything with planes that actually led him to start a business around planes. I'm not sure, but that's kind of where I'm thinking here. But let's see where this is going.
Made this choice as to be truly happy. I believe you first need to fix the money issue, as never having enough can lead to so many more problems down the road. I can tell you this, the journey to making substantial money isn't an easy one. Otherwise, everyone would be doing it. You just have to be very honest about what you're actually good at. Ray Dalio, owner of the world's largest hedge fund, Bridgewater Capital, says that you have to find your game. And I couldn't agree more. I remember trying my hand at a lot of different things, such as door-to-door fish sales, being a shop assistant, flipping cars, and teaching people how to fly radio-controlled helicopters. From this, I identified I had natural talent for dealing with people due to my strong social skills. From then on, I really leaned into anything that relied on me speaking face-to-face with customers.
Okay, so yeah, I agree with where he's going with this. I think he's going with the, well, you should build up a skill set and then you can start a business. Maybe that's where he's going. I agree with that, but I also think that you have to get in the game in order to get good at something. So yes, when you are getting started, you may be just trying to learn how to sell. You might be learning how to build your website. You might be learning how to find products to sell on Etsy or wherever, right? But you're learning a skill set. But I think also you need to understand business and you need to understand the basics of when you build a business, you need these other components. So yes, I agree that you should be building skill sets, but I don't think that that should pause your time for starting a business. I think if you want to start a business, you can start a business like right now.
As I knew I could make sales that others could only dream of. Have a think about the things that you're good at, and if there's a few common skills that connect them all, those are your money makers.
But doesn't a passion have to do with what you're good at sometimes? Like if I am a pickleball player, which I do like pickleball, by the way, and I'm trying to get better at it, I could technically start a business around pickleball. I mean, I could create either something here locally and build some courts, or I could do something online where I'm teaching what I'm learning to other people. So you see, I don't necessarily have to be an expert, and it is a passion, so we're kind of blending those two together. So that's where I see it, but let's see what Mark has to say.
At this stage, you should only be focusing on these skills because it's much easier to get ahead improving on those rather than starting from scratch with something completely new. You can use these natural skills to fix your money issues, and then from there, start improving in other areas.
Yeah, you fix that by getting in the game. And if you want to get good at something, well, then you're going to learn about something, and you can then online, if you're watching YouTube right now, because that's where you're watching this video, you can document your journey, and then you can turn that into a business as you become more successful at the thing you're learning. Like you can literally start a YouTube channel on what you're interested in, your passion, and then you can start to monetize that, and you can then build products around that. So there's so much that you can do with that. So I agree that you want to develop a skill, but don't think that that should hold you back from starting a business. Just my take.
Step 2, dedicate everything to a job. I know it's become very trendy to want to escape the matrix.
All right, wait a minute. So dedicate everything to a job. But what if you hate that job? What if you don't like what you're doing? What if you don't even like the industry that you're in and you just got the job to get the job? Now, can you build some skills within, dealing with people, or if you're in a sales position and things like that? I think that's where he's going, but man, dedicate everything to a job. I personally, when I was getting ready to escape the job, I was, yes, doing my job, doing a good job, but I was focusing a lot of my other energy when I was out of that job on that side business that I was going to turn into a full-time business. So yes, that's kind of where I think I would not just dedicate everything, 100% of your time and effort to the job. Yes, do a good job, but I think you should be focusing on your side hustle to turn into your full-time gig. At least that's my opinion.
Even got to the point where people are quietly quitting their jobs. This means they are doing the bare minimum, keeping all their energy for their side hustles. Although I understand the thinking behind this, doing the bare minimum is something that should never be celebrated. That is the type of mindset that ensures you'll...
Well, I don't think you have to do a crappy job because you're focusing on your side hustle. If you are working, and I've done this when I was at the 9-to-5, all I'm thinking about is I want to get done here so I can get home and start working on my side hustle because I want to get out of this thing. Now, does that mean I did a poor job at my 9-to-5? No, I don't agree that you should do that. But I do think that your mind is going to be working regardless on what you really ultimately want to do. And that is starting that business and getting to do the thing that is going to allow you to leave this other thing. So I think it depends on your job situation or what you're trying to do, but I don't 100% agree here.
Will never be successful because the way you do the small things is the way you'll do the big things. When I was working as a carpenter, I'd have days I just hated, but I knew a sour attitude wouldn't get me anywhere. Even a job like this can give you the opportunity to practice important skills. I learned woodwork, technical design, quoting, and customer service. I always believed in...
Yeah, I agree with that too. You are learning while you're on the job some of these other important skills. I worked for my father's construction company straight out of high school, and I learned construction, which really did lend myself to doing side jobs that I was making a lot of money on the side, right? But it didn't turn into my full-time gig, but sales did. Having the sales experience in that business definitely helped me. And really also it taught me about partnerships because my father and his partner didn't have a great partnership. So it also taught me about that. So yes, you will learn from those experiences, but it doesn't mean that it's going to 100% translate to that new business.
The phrase work to learn, not to earn. When I
agree.
worked in a factory, I would always ask questions and try to figure out how it all worked. This later came in very handy when I was traveling the world looking for the perfect place to manufacture my own products, as I knew what I was looking for. My experience as an assistant in a radio controlled model shop helped me learn sales, communication, and organizational skills that I'd later train to my employees in my own shops. In your current job, try to understand why things are the way they are without trying to argue or question your boss. By looking just a little bit deeper, you can find there's a reason why pretty much everything is the way it is.
Yeah. And so like he's saying, like he learned things from when he was doing sales in his job to translate over into his own business. And I 100% agree with that. So everything you are learning, and I do believe that, work to learn. I think that in the very beginning, you might be working there just to gain the experience, and then that is going to help you get to where you want to go. So I 100% agree with that with Mark.
If it's good, keep note of it. If it's bad, also keep note of it. I'll explain why later. Step 3. Nurture your contacts and your image. These two really go hand in hand, because if you don't have a good image, then the people you want to connect with won't want to be your friends. It's harsh but true. We often make a quick assumption about a person, right or wrong, after meeting them just once. Nowadays, due to social media, you don't even have to meet someone to have an opinion on them. So how you present yourself in person and online is very important. I mean, think about some of your favorite YouTubers. They all have something that makes them stand out. For me, it's my old age, and of course my wisdom. Take your strengths from step 1 and try to find a way to show them off when you meet a new person.
Yeah. And what he's saying is you're building that know, like, and trust. And I've talked about this for years, and I'm a huge believer in this because now with online and having this right here where we're able to connect and you're able to connect with me and I'm able to connect with you, you're building this relationship with your customers, your potential customers, or just an audience that you want to be helping or involved with. So I 100% agree.
Print in their mind after failing to qualify for the Helicopter World Championships in Austria.
And I want to say, Mark's got some really good video edits here. I mean, look at that. We got a helicopter in there crashing. And yeah, I mean, he's got some good edits going on here. So thumbs up to Mark for the edits.
In 1993, and being absolutely devastated, I devised a plan to make sure that I made an impact. I noticed a loophole that would allow me to attend as the team coach. Once I secured my place, I loaded my model helicopter with a secret weapon, and after the final competition, I executed my plan.
Now, are you seeing something here that I'm seeing? He talked about in the very beginning that he wanted to be a fighter pilot, I believe it was. And then he went and got his pilot's license, and then he worked in a plane shop. And then from there, he's now going to, I think, teach people and be a teacher, an instructor. Passion? I don't know. Kind of sounds like a passion here, Mark.
Flew the first ever model helicopter firework display. Everyone was in awe. The helicopter flipped and soared through the sky, followed by a glittering trail of sparks and explosions. I was featured in many newspapers and TV shows, leading to me making a bigger impact than any of the competition winners. I was even asked to sign multiple autographs. That was before selfies were even a thing. 2 years later.
You see this? This is my Sunday planning system, or what I call my weekly no bullshit filter.
I qualified for the multiple autographs. That was before selfies were even a thing. 2 years later, I qualified for the World Championships in Japan, and everyone already knew my name from that breathtaking night.
So if we go back though to his job, and I don't know what his exact job was that he was working at, but he enjoyed it. He loved it, right? Because it was, I believe, in the plane market, model planes. Maybe it's the helicopter, or what would that be called? Be drones nowadays, but I think it's like the remote controls, right? So it's those types of things he was totally into. So it was a passion of his. He enjoyed it, the job he didn't hate, and then eventually it led him to start his business. So I think it's important to recognize that.
So you've got to be straight with yourself. The world out there is too hard for you to be soft. I think a better way of being great is to go out there and practice the things that will make you great. Rather than telling yourself over and over in the mirror, I'm great, I'd say having proof is much better. You don't have to be great at everything, but the reason most men are so invisible nowadays is that they're too afraid to take risks for fear of standing out. And in this era of distraction, social media and quiet quitting, it's easier than ever to stand out by excelling. But it's also important not to be too self-absorbed. Most people are more interested in themselves than other people. Becoming genuinely interested in others can take you a long way in business and friendships, even though it may seem.
Yeah, it's my whole thing of, I want to give before I want to receive. Like, I'm creating this video in hopes that it is going to help someone. And same thing that Mark is doing, creating videos to hopefully take some of his wisdom and spread it into the world and do good and positive. And I think if you go into any business with that mindset and not just about the profit, you're going to do way, way better, because again, you are building relationships with people that know, like, and trust you. So I'm a huge fan of that, and I'm glad that he's bringing this up.
Seem like a waste of time. Step 4, identify improvements and write them down. Remember how I said to write down the stuff that was good and not so good about whatever business you're working in? Well, here's the thing. A lot of people who go into business do so because the last boss they worked for was a complete idiot. At least that's kind of what happened to me. Businesses are all about solving problems, but the funny thing is...
Yeah, and it's funny that he brings that up, because my father, who I worked for with his partner, and I totally now, to this day, which is over 20 years ago, I still have a hard time partnering with people because of that. So I learned what I did not want. I also learned that I don't want a bunch of employees. I want to have a very small, lean business. Very, very lean, like one person lean. Like, that's what I want. So again, this is important. And he definitely brings up a great point as far as write down what you like and what you don't like about the business that you're currently working for. So yeah, I think that's a good tip.
Businesses have tons of their own problems. Whenever an issue comes up and your boss has to hire some outside help, keep a note of what the problem was and how it was solved. I saw all the problems in the radio control model shop I was working in, such as not meeting customer demand with certain products, a poor location, and inexperienced staff. I later used this information to start a chain of model shops that absolutely dominated the market. This is the same idea behind hiring a mentor or paying for consultants. However, this way you are actually getting paid while gaining the knowledge. Step 5, test your fixes with a side hustle. Starting a business is scary. It often means taking risks and putting in lots of time and money up front without any guaranteed returns. That's why it's so important to start with a side hustle.
Okay, so now he's saying start a side hustle. But when do you start that side hustle, Mark? I kind of think you said not to basically start something while you're working at your job, because then you don't want to take the energy away from the job. Now, again, I know that's probably not what you were intending to mean, but that's kind of what it's seeming like to me. So I personally think that you should start a side hustle if you are working a 9-to-5. And yes, do not take away from the 9-to-5, but start working on something low risk, something that you can get in the game and start slow and then start to ramp it up slowly. And you're going to learn because you're in the game. So that's what I think.
Before starting my own range of radio control models, I made sure to stock everything in my shops to get a real handle on what actually sold and why. One of my friends actually went one step further. He wanted to start an e-commerce store but couldn't afford to take any risks as he had very limited money. His biggest fear was being left with inventory that he just couldn't sell. Then he had a brilliant idea.
And that is a big problem, by the way. I had e-commerce businesses, and we actually had one that we just recently sold. And you could have hundreds of thousands of dollars in inventory that you are hoping that's going to sell. And that is something that I learned along the way by starting a business, selling a business, and then realizing I don't want to really do that type of business anymore. I want to do something different. So you are going to learn from those experiences. And yes, if you're starting a business, you don't really probably want to start with a lot of inventory or a lot of overhead. So I agree. Create something that is going to be able to test the market, something you can do on the side, and get started as soon as possible.
What if he tried to sell a product he didn't have? He first tested this out with resistance training bands from China. But instead of buying them and having them shipped over, he just listed them for sale. When the orders came in,
Short little story here. I actually did sell resistance bands, not those ones, but I did sell resistance bands. That was one of my first e-commerce products that I sold on Amazon. Did over $300,000 my first year with that, but I didn't know anything about that business model, but I went in and tested it and I made a lot of money doing it. So that's why I say, yes, you should start and you should start to learn because you're going to learn the most by doing. But to his point, this guy didn't want to spend the money. I spent about $5,000 on my first order in inventory for those resistant bands. But in this case, he kind of did a little test thing, and then I think he's going to refund people. Let's see.
It gave him proof that the product was sellable. So he refunded all the orders and decided to buy the product after he knew he could sell it. He was able to test so many products using this approach. One of the most important parts of the testing process is measurement. What gets measured gets managed. That's the reason why elite athletes...
It's a fact. In the new economy, average people are becoming millionaires faster and easier.
Athletes always measure their stats is measurement. What gets measured gets managed. That's the reason why elite athletes always measure their stats. There's this idea now in startups called the minimal viable product, or MVP. The term was coined by the CEO of a gaming business. Basically, they had the rough idea for the game, but left the details and the path of development largely up to the feedback of the users. What was once a very scrappy and buggy game ended up becoming pretty amazing by just listening to the feedback and making constant improvements. Testing your idea could be
Yeah, minimum viable product has been out there a long time, and I'm a huge fan of it because what you're technically doing is you are going to, once you have an audience, this works really good if you have an audience, and I've been doing this for years, is you basically say, I'm thinking about creating this product. If I get enough people to want me to create it and buy it at this entry-level price, then I will go ahead and build it, or I will create it. And that works really, really well because then you don't do all of the upfront work without knowing if people are really going to buy the product. So I'm a huge fan of doing that, and there's several ways that you can do it, but that is a great point that he brings up.
as simple as just asking users what they think of it in a Discord or a subreddit. It's worth remembering though, the opinions of those that matter most are the ones that buy your product. And you won't know who those people are until you start selling on a small scale. Often you'll find that 80% of your results are due to 20% of your side hustle. This rule applies to many more things, such as 80% of traffic accidents are caused by 20% of drivers. 80% of wealth is controlled by 20% of the population. 80% of a company's productivity is due to 20% of its employees. And there are many more examples. Step 6, launch your business. Now, before you start saying I clickbaited you with the title, hear me out. If you have followed all the steps I've talked about in this video so far, then your chances of succeeding as an entrepreneur are dramatically improved. I see way too many people start.
But the question would be this: when do you start? When are you ready? And that's why I say you're ready the day you say you're ready. And I do think that getting started is going to build that skill set faster. All right, so that's what I would say there, but let's keep listening.
Starting a business with absolutely zero skills that set them apart, which means they're just going to fail and become disheartened. It's undeniable that the biggest billionaires out there didn't get that way by just having a side hustle. They did it by delivering value to a huge number of people through a business. So when you're analyzing the results of your side hustle, try to see if you can identify the best parts of what you're doing, the top 20%. Then ask yourself, how can you do more of it on a larger scale and reach more people?
All right, so the video was good, and he gave some really, really good takeaways there, right? Build a skill set. From the skill set, you can launch your business. But I do believe that nowadays we can take our passion or our expertise and we can turn that into a business. Because if you're interested in something, even if you're not an expert yet, you can turn that into a business. I've done that several times. My wife and I owned a photography business years ago. I learned from starting that business and growing that business, and then I went on to teach others how to do the same. So yes, I agree. You want to build that skill set, but you want to build the skill set while you're starting and building your business. At least that's in my opinion. If you'd like to see 6 side hustles that I've started over the years that have done $50,000 plus per year, watch this video next, and you're gonna see exactly how 2 of those turned into 7-figure brands. Watch that video next, and I'll see you there.